Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. This is an incredibly niche video, so I'm assuming if you have clicked on this, then it's because you need help, or it's just because you like to have me on in the background while you are doing something to do with reborning yourself. So I recently made this gorgeous baby. It is the Annie sculpt. I bought her from McPherson's. You can buy her as just a head, but they also have these little mix and match limbs. Now, I made this baby for a class at the doll school with Christine Woolley, and the class specifically said we would be learning how to paint a head and hands and feet. So I went out and bought a head and hands and feet. And I've put together cuddle babies, and I've put together regular babies with full arms. I've done 3/4 arms. I've never put together a baby with 1/4 limbs. Now it did come with this cuddle body, which is really helpful, and it has the right amount of material for where like the limbs go and things. This was quite intimidating actually when I pulled it out, and I will show you why. The camera is in a different position to usual, so I am hoping this setup is going to work today. But the reason that this was intimidating to me was that when I pulled it out, the limbs were actually like round this way, and I was looking at it going, but that looks like a knee, but it's on the back, like where does this part go compared to the leg? Wasn't really sure what was going on. So these actually have discs in them inside the top of the limb, which you can twist, so you can move the leg. So I moved it around until I got this bit, which has the extra bit of material here for the knee, into a position that a knee would be in. So I was like, okay, yeah, that would be the knee part. So basically when I attach my limbs, they will go on like this. This little part will go here. So that's where the zip tie will go. So it took me a minute to figure that out. And similar with the arms. So you will see here, there's like an elbow because there's that extra gather of material there. So this is fantastic as a body. I've never actually seen a body like this before. I've also not seen one that has these little extra flaps sewn on. So I can only theorize that these are intended to cover when you have finished off your cable tie, you've either cut it or tucked it in. And I think what you would do is then kind of just cover it with the flap and possibly add like a stitch in here, although I'm not 100% sure how you would do that after you've assembled the baby, now I'm thinking about it. So if anyone knows exactly how you're supposed to use these flaps and like secure them, I would love to know. Or if you're just supposed to leave them like flappy, maybe you glue them actually. Oh, that might be a shout. I mean, I could just cut them off, but because they're on there, I don't really want to cut them off. So actually, once I've secured it all, I might just pop a little bit of fabric glue along that line so it's glued. That's an idea. I like that. Okay, we're gonna do this together. So the other thing I've noticed is that these limbs have like these tiny holes to fill them, and I really cleverly threw out my funnel that I would use for filling really small limbs. Literally like last week, because I'm trying to downsize, I'm trying to get rid of lots of stuff. This was the smallest funnel I could find, which is my husband's. It's still too big, as you can see, so I'm either gonna have to make this hole larger, or I'm just gonna have to like hold this really tightly on here while I'm filling, which might be what I do so that balls don't go everywhere. So, but also side note, I'm really happy with how these limbs came out. I think they are some of the most beautiful limbs I have ever painted. So yeah, really happy with that. And I put soft touch on top, so they are really nice and smooth to the touch. So the first thing I usually do is fill all of the limbs. So I'm going to be using medium glass beads for this. I've often used small glass beads, which are like as fine as sand, and I just find they go everywhere and I end up with like little bits of sand under everything. These glass beads also go everywhere, but they aren't quite as irritating when you touch them. Let's see what happens if I just hold this really tightly. So I do want to basically fill up the entire limb. Right, if I hold it really tightly, it works. And then I'm waiting for that to go down. Right, that does work. So usually when I have a regular baby with like full arms and legs, here's what I'm working on at the moment. Obviously it's not finished, but I usually fill them up to around here with the beads. So I can't do that this time. So this is going to be a lighter baby, but I might add more weighting into the body as a result. And I do want these limbs to be almost completely full. And then I'll just add a tiny bit of stuffing at the end. I'm gonna go away, fill them all up, and be right back with you. And we're back. Our limbs are full. I have a couple of little tiny glass beads everywhere, but it's fine. I did put a bit of stuffing on the top of each of them and then shoved it in just with a little paintbrush. And so I'm going to put these to one side, and then I think I'm going to make the weighting pouches for the head and the body. So this I'm going to do in the same way that I do with all of my regular dolls, but I think I'm going to make the body one a little bit heavier. So this is a pair of tights. This is 40 denier, which I like the best just because it's the most secure, and I will cut a kind of small-ish one for the head, and then I want to make a larger one for the body. These are very stretchy though, so it doesn't matter if what you cut is a little bit small. I have also just found that I'm running very low on my steel discs. I'll check if I have any more, but we might have to go back to glass beads for the body and head. Okay, I don't have any more of the steel discs. I will have to put an order in for those. I think I have enough though to weight the head because that's not going to be super heavy, so let's see. Get my scale, do on 0 pounds and ounces. You know, that's not far off what I would usually weight that. So that is currently coming up at 10 ounces. I think I'm going to add just a few glass beads in as well. Yeah, I think that's all right. So that's about 11.4 ounces. So that is going to be my head weighting. So I will tie that off. I don't make it like too tight of a ball. I still want it to be movable, just because when it goes in the head, it's often quite a small hole it has to fit through. So you want to make sure it's like movable to fit it through. I'm going to do the same with the body section, but I will tie this on one end to start with. And again, you want the thicker denier if you are using things like the glass beads, because they do go through really tiny holes. So it's one of the reasons I like the steel discs for the body weighting, because you can not worry so much about that. But yeah, the thicker the tights, the harder it will be for any of those glass beads to escape. So I'm going to 0 that, and this might need to be a bit bigger, I'm realizing, because the steel weighting, again, another reason I like the steel weighting is because it is heavier, so you don't have to use as much to create the weighting pouch. Whereas I'm gonna have to use quite a lot of this. So some people will even use like 2 weighting pouches, like for one for the body, one for the chest area. But I am having to use a lot more, which it just fills up more of the cavity, and I don't really like being able to feel the weighting pouch, but I do need this to be heavier. So that is about 1.5 ounces in there. Sorry, 1 pound 5 ounces in there, and it's quite like a decent size thing, but it's also very like soft and squishy, so actually I'm not too worried about how that's going to feel inside the body. So if I was using a thinner material, I would probably have to at least double this up, but you can see like nothing is coming through there because it's really thick, and actually that's just very soft and squishy. That's quite a nice little fidget I have created here. Also, a set like this of little measuring jugs is so useful. Okay, I think we are at assembly time. So I usually always assemble like the legs and the arms on first. So I will do that. I have a massive bag of really soft, fluffy material in here. This is stuffing, and I've got to try and find what's an appropriate amount to stuff these legs, because I want them still to be able to move. So you can see that knee really coming now. They need to be squishy, but they need to be able to hold their shape. So it might just take a little bit of adjusting. I often have 2 different types of stuffing. I have a like really super soft one that goes in the body, and then I have a harder one that I usually like fill the head up with, or the tops of the limbs, just so it's like more solid in there and doesn't move around as much, and you don't need as much of it to make the baby. Whereas this like really compresses down. I have a huge bag because I bought like, it was something like 10 pounds of stuffing, and when stuffing weighs nearly nothing, several pounds of it is massive. So let's look at these. That is so nice. because you can probably like bend the limbs, but you can also put them back. I love this. Maybe I should do more of these kinds of bodies. Yeah, so I don't want to overstuff it because I want to still be able to like manipulate that, because I really like how you can change the position of it. Okay, so I think this just does take a good amount of fiddling around with, not trying to overstuff, not trying to understuff, but if I make that go as though it's straight, does it have enough stuffing in? So what I will do is just kind of pinch it as though it's done, and then does that feel stuffed enough? I think so. So I now tighten that. I'm not completely tightening it because I still want to check. Like, this isn't solid at all, but it means that it can bend quite nicely. I might still add a bit more to the thigh area is more what I'm thinking. If I push that all up into the thigh, just to make the thigh more solid, and then have less in the knee calf section, just because otherwise I think that's going to be too floppy of a thigh, and no one wants the floppy thigh. Yeah, I think that's better, and I'll do the same with this one actually. This is far more complex than any other baby that I've like assembled, because I want that knee to, I want you to still be able to bend that knee. Okay, let's attach these the right way round. So usually when I do putting together a regular baby, I don't want to make these too tight because you need to be able to move them. Well, with a cuddle baby like this, you're not actually going to be like shifting this limb around, so this can be quite tight. I'm just making sure this is the correct orientation here. Okay, we have legs, hands. So I'm just trying to look at how my hand like bends at the elbow and try and work out how this hand should be. Maybe I won't do this one as tight so I can still move it a little bit in there. Yeah, that's the thing about these ones, because they have elbows, you have to consider where the hand would be. Like their feet are easy, they're just straight. But these, it's thinking about the like pronation of the elbow and the arm. There's like anatomy going on here, because I think that's going to end up like that, but then that kind of looks weird to me that you have a hand like this. Okay, we'll assemble the whole baby and then we will pass judgment. So I always add some stuffing into the bottom before my waiting pouch and the back area, because I kind of want to create a pouch for my waiting pouch. So this at the moment is actually all just spread out at the back. Get my nice, very soft, I might have to make one of these for myself just to fiddle with. A very soft pouch, which is almost too big to fit in the neck hole, but I will make it work. Okay, so I want that to fit like towards the bum, but I need to make sure there is stuffing all the way around it. So the smaller your hands are, the easier this is. I have fairly small hands, which is not ideal for piano playing, but makes things like this and getting into a Pringle tube significantly easier. My husband's hands do not fit in a Pringle tube, and he always has to pour the Pringles out, and I always go, haha. So I'm going all the way around that pouch. I'm really liking this body because like you can really pose it. This is really cool. I've said really too many times. Now I do like a little baby bum, and they have done a gather here so that there is a bottom. So I'm just adding some extra stuffing into that area, and again all the way around the back. I want to make sure that it's not like lumpy anywhere, so we'll just do lots of fiddling around. And then can we give it a little pot belly? I think it's Nikki Johnson who's made like custom bodies for some of her sculpts recently, and they are so gorgeous because they've got like a tummy coming over a bit, and it's just very sweet. Okay, so head time. Right, as you can probably see, this is a much denser and like rougher material, so I wouldn't want this to go anywhere that you can feel it, but it's really good for things like the head, to make sure everything stays in the right place where I put it. I've added some stuffing in. Now I'm going to add that waiting pouch, shove it all in. I like my waiting pouch to be slightly towards the back, but it's kind of a preference. I don't want it completely at the back. So if you really want a floppy head, you want to put your waiting pouch like right at the back, and then the head will just like flop backwards. I haven't done that with this one because I want it to be like really posable because of the body that it's coming with. You also don't want to overstuff the head, because overstuffing will mean that the vinyl could get deformed because it will get too stuffed and then it will push and like bulge out. And particularly for ones like this one, she has, you can see, she has some of the, probably the softest vinyl I have ever come across. She would have been perfect for rooting, but I did do the hair painting class with her. So this is all ready to go. She's not super heavy, but I think it's all right. So make sure that flap is out. So I don't want the head to be super tight, because what I don't want is that you can't twist the head, but I also don't want you to do this and the head falls out. So I can still move the head and it's not going to come out. She has some slightly beefy shoulders, and that's why I didn't want to overstuff the tops of the arms compared to like the thighs. Look at her, oh so cute. Okay, so a lot of people I know do just kind of slip these in and do them round, but I like to just nip the ends off. So let's pop some clothes on her. Okay, I'm gonna start with a nappy. And don't worry, I will glue these flaps down, but I'll do it off camera later. She's a little chunky. I have a little vest for her. Not super necessary for the cuddle babies, because generally you're not really going to take the outfits. Often have them in something like a vest. She looks so weird like this. I'm hoping she looks more normal with clothes on. So I've chosen this outfit. It might be a bit small. I might have to grab another outfit. I've chosen this one specifically because it is 3/4 length, so it just shows the hands and feet, and that's what I want. I don't want to cover these up. I spent so much time painting them. Hello, welcome to the world. Aww, cutie. Yes, I do baby talk to all of my dolls. She's a little more solid, I think, than I would like in the middle, but I might do some adjustments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this little girl. I'm going to be spending some time posing her. Might try her in a different outfit. I think I'm going to be selling her at the Basildon Doll Show in November. So if you are interested in her, then do come along to that, and you can pick her up there. I really love the fact that you can bend the knees on her. I am slightly obsessed with that because I think you can really make her like proper posable. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please do consider liking, and if you want to see more from me, you can always subscribe, and I will hopefully see you next time.